What's going on, everybody? And I hope you've had a fantastic Saturday so far. This is NYG Jeffy T85 here, and I'm just going to talk about a Giants roster update on a couple of players that were recently released from the New York Giants yesterday, as well as the most important topic for this game and for possibly the rest of the season. The Giants need to get 4 key players back heading into the stretch run as the Giants get prepared for their football game in Week 13 next Sunday against the Washington Commanders at MetLife Stadium. Now, first, I'm just going to go over quickly the couple of players that were released today from the New York Giants, and that, of course, is safety/defensive back Trenton Thompson, who is an undrafted free agent from San Diego State. The Giants brought in during training camp this past offseason. The Giants signed him to an undrafted free agent deal this past offseason after the NFL draft back in April of this year. He was a guy that was pretty much made the roster as a back-end safety, but he really hasn't gotten a whole lot of playing time with the New York Giants on the field. So the Giants decided to move on. Maybe they'll try to sign him back to their practice squad going forward. We'll have to wait and see what's going to happen in terms of Trenton Thompson. The other player the New York Giants have released from their team, and that, of course, is Devery Hamilton, who had to be called up from the practice squad a couple of days ago because of the fact the Giants were lacking so many players on the offensive line. They just need to get any type of bodies they can on the offensive line because of the amount of injuries that the New York Giants suffered in this game against the Detroit Lions a couple of weeks ago. So the Giants just need to bring up any type of players they could for the offensive line just to help account for the amount of losses they had with the offensive linemen before. So Devery Hamilton and Trenton Thompson have officially been waived from the New York Giants roster. Have to wonder if both of them might end up being back on the practice squad going forward, or if the Giants decide to move on. Now for the meat and potatoes of the reason why I made this video. And for me, it's just all about this. The New York Giants are going into a very important 6-game stretch run for the rest of the season. 2 games against Washington starting next Sunday at MetLife Stadium. You got 2 games against Philadelphia. You got 1 game at home against Indianapolis. And you got another game on the road against the second-ranked team in the NFC, the Minnesota Vikings. The Giants right now are lacking in talent because of the amount of injuries they have suffered all through this season. The Giants might be getting 4 very important players back next Sunday against the Commanders. And that is outside linebacker Azeez Ojulari, offensive lineman Ben Bredeson and Evan Neal, and tight end Daniel Bellinger. These 4 guys have easily been, besides Adoree Jackson and Xavier McKinney, who those guys are not going to be back for at least another few weeks, if they even come back at all the rest of the season. But the Giants are clearly missing Bredeson and Neal on the offensive line. They're missing Daniel Bellinger at tight end, and they are missing Azeez Ojulari on the outside. When Ojulari played in the couple of games he played this year, he was able to apply some good pressure on the outside to make things easier for Kayvon Thibodeaux on the opposite side. But Azeez Ojulari has been dealing with a calf injury for the past couple of times. He got hurt during the end of preseason and training camp. He had to miss the first few games of the season. He then came back around the Chicago Bears game, but he got re-injured again on that calf injury, and he ended up missing all these games afterwards, and he was put on injured reserve right before the Giants went on their bye week. But Ojulari is expected to come back off the injured list next week against the Washington Commanders, and the Giants could use his pass rush coming off the outside. The Giants could definitely use another outside pass rusher because no disrespect to Timon Fox, to Jihad Ward, to O'Shane Ximenez, Ellison Smith, Quincy Roche, or whoever is on this team. They are not to the level of what Azeez Ojulari could bring to this team. And shout out to NYG22. He's the one that brought this up. The Giants need Ojulari on the outside. It's going to help open things up for Kayvon Thibodeaux on the opposite side. So the Giants need to get Azeez Ojulari back on that football field. Now just going to tight end position. While I like Lawrence Cager, I think he's a solid flex tight end, a guy that can be a move tight end in the middle of the field. He's not a great blocker. He's dropped a couple of passes. He's not the type of player that is going to be able to be a top tight end. I don't even know if Daniel Bellinger is going to be a top tight end, but what Daniel Bellinger can do is he can block, and what he was a great security blanket in the middle of the field for Daniel Jones, and it's clear as day the Giants have missed Daniel Bellinger's ability in the middle of the football field to make some plays over the middle of the field. The Giants need to get Daniel Bellinger back on the field to help out this offense. It's clear as day Daniel Bellinger needs to come back. They need him. So hopefully Bellinger can come back and he can be that safety valve over the middle and creates a couple of plays, because Jones and Bellinger were starting to develop some chemistry on the football field before, unfortunately, Bellinger got injured in the Jaguars game with the orbital fracture. But he might be ready for the game against the Commanders, and the Giants could use him. And now going on to the offensive line, Evan Neal and Ben Bredeson. It is no coincidence this offensive line has not been the same since Bredeson and Neal both went down with injuries in that Jacksonville Jaguars game, the same game that the Giants lost Daniel Bellinger. The Giants have really just been trying to plug a hole at left guard and right tackle. 3 other guys right now at left guard try to fill in the spot. Azeez, he was probably the best one of the 3, but he even was okay. He was very good he was good to the run blocking, but he was suspect in pass blocking. Shane Lemieux lasted pretty much a half until he eventually got hurt again, and he was subsequently benched for Joshua Azeez. And then they had to try Jack Anderson last week because Azeez and Lemieux couldn't play due to injury. It is clear as day Ben Bredeson is a more important piece to this offensive line than people might have thought originally. The Giants need to get Ben Bredeson back on the football field ASAP because his presence is really missed on that offensive line. And hopefully they can get him off the injured reserve list come against the Washington Commanders. And ditto for Evan Neal. The Giants have tried 3 guys at the right tackle position, whether it's Corey Cunningham, whether it's Matt Parrott, and then this past week, Tyree Phillips. Phillips was probably the best one of the 3, but it's evident as day, none of these guys have the upside and the ability that an Evan Neal has at the right tackle position, and he was just coming to his own at right tackle before he ended up getting the sprained MCL, and he had to miss at least the past 4 games, but he might be ready for the game against the Washington Commanders. So the Giants could definitely afford to get these 4 players back on this team. They need these 4 guys back. They're so critical to what the Giants want to do on offense and defense. Ojulari on the opposite side of Thibodeau. Thibodeau is starting to create some pressure now on the one side. You get Ojulari there on the other side, and teams are going to have to wonder who we're going to double on the outside because both those guys can wreck a game on the outside. So hopefully Ojulari can come back off the injured reserve and get out there. Daniel Bellinger will hopefully come back healthy, and he can be that safety valve blanket that we need over the middle of the field and be able to block very well at the tight end position, be able to catch some good passes over the middle, and continue that chemistry he had with Daniel Jones before Bellinger got hurt in the Jaguars game. And obviously, Bredeson and Neal are needed on that offensive line. You get the both of them back. Bredeson coming off injured reserve. Neal, hopefully he gets healthy. Throw them back on the offensive line. And I will roll with an offensive line of Andrew Thomas, Ben Bredeson, Nick Gates, Mark Lewinsky, and Evan Neal. I think that's a winning formula on the offensive line. And that offensive line could be very good for the rest of the season. I would bench Feliciano, and I would keep Gates at center and roll with that offensive line. Get Bredeson back in there. Get Neal back in there, and then just go with what you got over there. And I think that offensive line could do damage for the New York Giants going forward. So hopefully, we are going to get some good news on all 4 of these guys, and that they will be ready for the game on next Sunday against the Washington Commanders, because the Commanders game is now a major game because of the fact we've lost 2 in a row. And there's some other teams now in the NFC that are starting to creep their way back into the playoff hunt. And the Giants have got to try to get as many healthy bodies as they can back on this team. And they've got to try to find a way to start winning again. Because if they allow these other teams to creep back in, it could be a very, very bad omen for the New York Giants going forward. So hopefully we can get Bredeson, we can get Bellinger, we can get Neal, and we can get Ojulari back on the game against the Commanders in what will be an absolutely major key matchup against our division rival Washington Commanders that might win 3 in a row if they could pull off their victory tomorrow against the Atlanta Falcons, another team that's possibly in the playoff hunt. So you can't even forget about the Falcons potentially sneaking up for a wild card spot. But I just want to make this video real quickly about the couple of roster moves that the Giants made. Offensive lineman Devery Hamilton and safety Trenton Thompson have both been waived off the New York Giants roster. And I also want to talk about the 4 key players the Giants could really use and come back for the game against the Washington Commanders next Sunday at MetLife Stadium in a key NFC East matchup. So if you guys like this video, please hit the like button below. Sub up if you haven't already to NYGJeffyT85 for more breaking news, updates, and chatter surrounding the New York Giants. Turn on the bell for notifications on the next video or short dropping on the channel surrounding the New York Giants. And you guys let me know in the comment section what you think about the potential of getting all 4 of these key players back. Bellinger, Bredeson, Neal, and Ojulari. And what kind of impact all 4 can make for this Giants team against the Washington Commanders and for the rest of this stretch run, the last 6 games of the NFL season. So I want to say thank you very much, everybody. Have a great rest of your Saturday. Everybody, as always, take it easy, and let's go New York Football Giants. Together blue, everyone.